everybody, it is Romania Black, and we're on episode 16 of March Comes In Like a Lion, and I'm super excited. I'm back from my vacation. It was great. I realized over the course of said vacation that I think I'm just triggered by Goto and Kyoko. I think they are just triggering characters. That's all there is to it. And I'm going to need to control myself when they are on the screen because I was like, ooh, I went back and edited episode 15 and I basically told everybody in the Discord being like, so get ready. But they're out of the way right now. So we have one more match to go between our sweet, beautiful Shimada, who is like, I have the biggest crush on, and them alongside Goto. But they have one match left. So it's like, how is this going to go? I don't know. I can't decide whether Shimada is going to win or if Goto is going to win. I can't decide how that's going to play out. I feel like it could go one of two ways and it would be okay. I feel like either way, it's going to lead Rei to go to the workshop with Nikaido and Shimada, which I want very desperately. But I feel like either Shimada is going to lose and Rei can use this opportunity to talk to Shimada about the loss and learn something from it. Or Shimada could win and it would entice Rei to want to go to the workshop to learn from him and feel how he could beat Goto in the future. So I feel like either way, win or lose, it's going to lead Rei to the workshop and to work with Shimada and Nikaido. I just don't know how, and I don't know exactly how it's going to go. So I'm really excited to see that turn of events and what we get. But yeah, so I'm really excited. I hope you all are too. I don't have any comments. So far, the comments have been really good for the episodes, but there hasn't been anything that stuck out that I felt the need to discuss at this point. Although I do need to remember to look up what the end card for episode 16 is. I need to remember to do that. And see what we end up getting, right? Because last week's end card, I think I showed everybody, it was the hyper realistic one of the grandpa. So we'll just have to see where we go to with that. But in any case, I'm super excited. I want to give a very quick shout out over to our philanthropy tier over on Patreon to thank them for not only supporting me through Patreon, but also for giving extra each month to help me to be able to keep the channel up and do what I do. So thank you all on YouTube for watching. Thank you all on Patreon. And a special thanks to Alex Cornejo, to Anime Annie, to Be Happy, to Bryant Reed, to Dana, to Danger Zone, to Danny Donmai, to Davarin, to Destiny Marie, to Ichu, to Eric, to Ghostly Turnip, to Fisho, to Kiri, to Elfreya, to Lyndon, to Matthew Palfinier, to Murphew, to Nameless Monster, to Nicholas, to Sunspots, to Shimoyama, to Trails, and Translucent Men. I appreciate all of your support so much. Thank you for everything and all of my love. So, with that being said, I got my coffee, which may be a mistake because it's a little warm in here. Make sure my glasses don't keep fogging up. And I'm super excited. So we're not going to waste any more time. We're going to dive right in and see what happens in episode 16 of March Comes In Like a Lion. And we're going to look at that here in 3, 2, 1. And let's go. I'll be honest with y'all. I'm recording a little bit ahead, and today just happens to be Suda's birthday as I'm recording this. And so, lo and behold, we actually get Suda in this episode. Suda's one of my favorite voice actors, and so I maybe freak out a little bit. Whenever he's on the screen, I was like, and the thing about it is, Suda, I don't feel like Suda plays, he's not ever typecast. Like, you could argue that there is like a broodiness to a character that he plays, but he's played characters that aren't broody. He really, honestly, there's not like, you know, how some voice actors, they play characters that kind of look similar and you're like, okay. But Suda, I would argue his characters, they just, you never know what you're going to get. It comes out of nowhere. It's kind of like the voice actor for Dio from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. That's the only voice actor from JoJo's I know is Dio, because he's voiced a lot of other characters in series that I've watched. His voice actor, it's one of those voices that you see a character and you're like, I wonder if that character is going to be voiced by him. And then he opens his mouth and you're like, oh, and it's him. But you just never know till it happens. And that's how Suda is as well. And there's some of my favorite voice actors. I love them. But yes, so this episode was amazing. This episode I was in such a foul mood for part of last week's episode, and luckily, like, the rest of it dug me out of the trenches. This episode was like, oh, hey, you were in the trenches last week. That kind of sucked, didn't it? Now, how about you get some rewards? And it's like, yes! So we get to see Rei make friends. And Rei making friends is the best thing. One of my favorite things in anime is when characters that are introverted or characters that have trouble making friends make friends. It's like one of my favorite things that anime does, because I think Rei is at the heart of it a high schooler. He's a teenage boy. He's a young man. He's a teenager. But I feel like all of us, no matter, unless you were the popular kid that just had friends at the wazoo and you're like, I never had any reason to want for friends. I feel like a lot of us grew up and had that moment in high school where you feel alone, or you feel like you just aren't going to make those connections and you don't think it's possible. And so we'll talk about it in this first part of the episode, but what the teacher said, it's so good. And I'm just like, the lesson from that moment is so, so important. I was like, I love this being a coming of age story and especially having a mentor figure like the teacher to help tell Rei, be like, look, let's just go through this message. This is so good. So yeah, he's trying to get Rei to get, I like that how part of this is in fact Rei's fault, because Rei has missed all of these matches, but then part of the responsibility is on the teacher for getting things messed up. It's like I help coach a speech team, and whenever we get like something wrong, like with the logistics of travel, I definitely feel responsible. I'm like, it's fine. We'll correct it. We'll overcorrect. We'll make it work. It'll be fine. And the students are all like, okay. Even though it's not totally either of our faults. Okay. So the Sasaki assignment, chemistry. Now, write a report on your impressions and main points of the experiment we did in class. 800 words. 800 words? Damn! That's like a 2 to 3 page paper. I mean, I guess. That's so funny. It's the last report. This is the last report you had to make up. So it's his last report till he's caught up with all of his assignments. And he's like, oh, Hayashida. That's the instructor's name. So he tries to call Sasaki, the chemistry teacher, and he's like, we're going to go to the after-school burners club. And then we show up with these high schoolers. Now, in the reaction, I was kind of like, that one guy with the perm and the Mario mustache, how? But as the scene went on and I thought about it, when I was in high school, there was a young man. He was probably 18 years old. He had a full-on mustache and like mutton chops and like big floofy brown hair. He looked like he was 40. And all of us were like, you're 16? Like, puberty hit him like a Mack truck. Puberty smacked him. Like, I felt bad, because if you look this old when you're 18, you're going to immediately age to 50 and you're going to stay that way for the rest of your life. Which, if you're fine with that, cool. But I felt bad for him. I was like, damn, you look like this when you're 18? Like, you know, and he couldn't help it. He was just like a big, burly, hairy man that looked like he was 40 and he barely could drive. And I was like, okay. And so as I thought about it during the reaction, I was like, yeah, I get that this guy, I thought based on the OP, I had in my head that he was going to be a possible, like, a fellow teacher love interest for Mr. Hayashida. Nope. The OP is like, gotcha, bitch. Nope. No, definitely. I am not a student teacher relationship type of person at all. Naguchi is his name. Naguchi is the after school burners club. Yeah. And Hayashida. Yeah. I am not a Naguchi and Hayashida shipper. Can't do that. No. A lot of people are like, oh, well, if I had like an attractive student in my class, they're like, oh, you could date that student. I'm like, no. Here's the thing. I've had some attractive students in my class, but no, there is a fine line, and it is a pretty definitive fine line where it's like, if I'm a teacher and you're a student, even if you were my student 10 years ago, there's still that weird dynamic of, hi, Miss So-and-so. And it's like, don't like that. It's just like, I don't think I could ever get over it. I don't think I could ever look past the fact that you were my student. I was like, ugh. I graded your papers. Plus, I'm a really harsh critic on writing, so I'd be like, you got a C on that paper. I look back on their grades and be like, I mean, you're hot, but this analysis, did you even try? So that just would not work out. That would not work out at all. So I could definitely see, my ship instantly had a cannon blasted through it. The burner club lit it on fire. We just said our farewells and and let it sink to the bottom of Davy Jones's locker. That's exactly what happened with that ship. It's gone. It's buried. It's over. I've moved on. Luckily, Shimada's in this episode, and I can focus on him instead. But yeah, a second-year high school student. I love that the episode is making fun of how old this student looks, and they keep reminding you, they're like, he's 16. Just so you're aware, he's actually 16. And you're like, what? So, but what I love about this scene is just the fact that they're not only so receptive of Ray, but they're also like, really nice, and they help him, and it's a moment where they're like, oh yeah, hey, and they end up helping each other because they help him do the report, but then the mugwort and the chocolate and banana and everything, the grapefruit, it ends up making this amazing scent. Luckily, it wasn't like ammonia and bleach. I just got done watching Madoka Magica, and I'm like, luckily it wasn't, a situation where there was like ammonia and bleach mixing and could have killed all of them. We're glad that didn't happen. But instead, it ended up attracting all of the girls. The moment that Naguchi said, he's like, well, we have to do this experiment to attract all the ladies. I'm like, yes, you are a high school student. This all makes sense now. But yeah, the natural perm, oh my God. I love that all of them with their glasses are wearing the masks that are like protecting them from fumes and stuff. But old Naguchi, he's going to take it head on. If he ends up suffering, that mustache is going to go down with him. The captain's going to go down with the ship for sure. But it's so sweet. And they're like, I love that throughout this episode, they do the dramatic, like the shaft animation, the dramatic head turns. They were aplenty in this episode. The animation of this entire episode, as if it's failed before, but it was just chef's kiss. And I love that for a second, Hayashida forgot where he was, and he was moved by the sight of Kiriyama becoming friendly with other students. I like that as a question mark. But yeah, Ray is actually gaining a friend, and there's that shot that's kind of from the OP. He's like, he might have to repeat this year if y'all don't help him. Hayashida laid it on thick. He laid it on thick and was like, if you guys don't help poor Ray, who just helped you, he might not pass this year and he'll have to repeat it. And they were like, we can't have that. Like, Hayashida laid it on really thick to get them won over, and it worked. And poor Ray's like, please take care of me. So they're like, you're a working student, huh? But if it's related to science, we're happy to lend you a hand. Bam. I love it. It's really sweet. Your manner of speech should improve, otherwise you won't get any promotions. I love this 16-year-old is like schooling this teacher, right? That's just so funny. So yeah, and then we have the sunset colors. I love it. And Hayashida, when he explains to them, he's like, hey, you were there having fun helping him. He's like, if you've got a problem that you can't fix by yourself, there's a good chance if you work together with someone else, you can overcome it. And this whole time, Ray has been trying to face his problems with Shogi head on by himself. He's like, I'll just practice by myself. I'll stay away from the house with the sisters. I'll do everything on my own, and I'll do it all from scratch. And it's like, and Hayashida has been trying to tell Ray, throw hints at him, throw him a bone saying like, hey, you can't do this all yourself. You can't survive on your own without help. He's been trying to say it, but Ray, it's not got through to Ray until this moment here, where he's like, now see, you worked with those guys in the chemistry lab and it helped you get the report done and catch up on all your homework. See what would have happened if you hadn't had that help? You wouldn't have been able to do it. So he definitely plants the seeds here that are going to sprout later on when Ray asks Shimada to join the workshop. He's like, if you can't face Goto and beat him, if you can't beat Shimada, then maybe you need to work together with some people to get better so that you can. And of course, it's the latter scenario. Shimada won the match. And so Ray was like, I want to find out how he did it. I want to learn from him and see how it's done. But I find I'm a millennial, right? I'm in my mid-30s, so I'm a millennial. And I grew up in the generation that was like, if you need help answering a question, you ask questions. It's like there are no dumb questions. You just ask a question and figure it out, right? But I work with advisement at a school, and I see a lot of students that are Gen Z, a lot of students that are younger. And so often I have a lot of younger students that are like Ray's age, maybe a little bit older, like 18 or 19, and they don't want to ask for help. And it's not because they're not grateful or respectful. It's just because they think that they have to do it on their own to be successful. They're like, oh, well, I don't want to be a burden to anyone. I don't want to bother anyone. I'll do it on my own. I'll figure it out for myself. You all want me to be independent anyway, so I'll do it. It's fine. And in a way, yeah, you want to be self-sufficient. Sure. But it almost is such a disadvantage. And I feel so sorry for these students a lot of times because they're not asking questions. They're not asking for help. They don't think anybody's going to help them. And they feel like it's like a burden on their pride, or it's like shameful. And so they don't ask questions or ask for help. And then they're like stuck out in the middle of the ocean by themselves. And it's like, it doesn't have to be that way. And so I wish that every younger person in high school could see this episode and see this message being like, it's a two-way street. You reach out your hand and help others, and they will help you back. It's a give and take. And no one should have to do anything alone. And he's like, that's really important. If things seem hopeless when you're alone, rely on someone. I love that because oftentimes when, a lot of younger kids and a lot of younger people, I feel like, and it doesn't necessarily have to be younger people, it could be people my age or whatever, but I feel like from my encounters, a lot of younger generations, they feel like it's a weakness to rely on someone. And I'm like, no, it's not. There's nothing wrong with relying on someone at all. If things seem hopeless, don't be alone. Like, have that person help you. And he's like, if you don't rely on anybody else, no one's going to rely on you. It's like, if you don't reach out a hand to help people, no one's going to reach that hand to help you back. That's such a good message. It's such a good message. It's so good. And to have it with like the sunset colors. And then that's when Ray thinks of the sisters. He's like, oh my God. He's like, I've been trying not to ask them to like put them out or seem like I'm not grateful or to like make them feel like I'm taking advantage of them. But that's never been the case. They've just been nice. And then it kind of goes back to Akari telling him, like, when he came over, she's like, well, I'm really glad you're here because I needed someone to be here. And so you helped me and I helped you. And it goes back to that moment, right? Oh, it's so good. He's like, they didn't depend on me. Not even once. I love how the purple and greens of his eyes, it goes together so well. And then he sends him on his way. And he's like, now you continue on the train and you help someone else too. And those purples, it's so good. And he's like, go watch the match. I just love it. I love the shot of Ray running away. And like, I'm going to shot that. And like the wind beneath him. Oh, it's so good. He looks so mature there with his hair flopping and everything. Oh, yes, please. Yes, please. So damn good. So then I love how instantly the moment he gets to the shogi hall, it's like a world of adults. He leaves from the high school with kids and after school, and it feels very juvenile, it feels very young, and it feels very youthful. And then he turns a corner, hits the shogi hall, and it's like suddenly a curtain opens and you're in a world of adults. And it's like, bam, men in suits. It's such a crazy thing, right? And I thought that Goto had won. I thought the moment that Goto like looked over him and smiled that he had won. But the real thing was that Goto was saving face. And I think that what's notable there is that Goto was in front of a crowd. So, of course, Goto ain't going to say shit to Ray when he's in front of people that could write it down or hear what he says, right? Bullies don't do that. Bullies don't do that in front of people that could call them out. They wait till you're by yourself to prey on you. So, yeah, the moment they opened up, I thought at first that Shimada, like, had lost and Nikaido was comforting him. But no, Shimada won. And he was just like, he had gotten so worked up in the moment and all that energy and everything was suddenly like, oh, And then it was just over. And he was like, okay, I'm done. That's so insane. I can't believe that he won. Uh-huh. He was defeated. I'm so glad Shimada won and he gets to play Soya. I don't think he's going to beat Soya. I know I just said that he wasn't going to win and he did, but I don't think he's going to beat Soya because Soya is the final boss. I feel like the person who can beat him is going to be Rei, right? I think Rei is meant to be like the one that's going to compete against Soya and take him on. That's like the end battle. Beyond this season, beyond what we have in anime so far with this show, I feel like that's the end goal. I could be wrong. But I just love the relationship between Shimada and Nikaido. I don't know if they're biological brothers. I was talking about it in the OP. I don't know if they're biological brothers or half brothers, or if it's just like they both are like have been mentored by the same person. If Soya mentored Nikaido though, that seems so weird. That seems like it's too much. I don't know. We'll see what the episodes give us. But yeah, I just love the kind of big brother sibling bond that Shimada and Nikaido seem to have. It's so sweet and it's so cute. I absolutely love it. And I love that when Nikaido says, snot's just dripping from my eyes. I was like, oh my God. It's like Tropic Thunder. He's like, it makes my eyes rain. And then, of course, Shimada's like, here, you need to wipe your face off. So these journalists try to, like, get some, like, comments out of him. And Shimada's like, yeah, I won this ability to face Soya, but Soya's even worse than Goto. So I'm not looking forward to this. And they said there were 7 matches in the final. 7? So you had to win 2 out of 3 to get to the final, and now you have to win 4 out of 7? That's insane. What? That is wild. That is absolutely bonkers. Right? Okay. And so then these other journalists show up, and they're like from the Yamagata Journal, and they talk about how Izumida, they're like, we came as promised. And they're like, the old folks in your fan club back home have their hopes up. So like all these people that have come to watch Shimada in his final rounds, they're like encouraging them. That's so crazy. And they're like, you're an instructor, but a hero at our kids' shogi club. So I think that's so crazy because Shimada is kind of this really cool. If we look at the difference here between them, right? We have Shimada, who he's very modest / humble, but he also does a lot with paying it forward, which is the lesson that Hayashida was trying to teach Rei, where he teaches kids. Right? That made me instantly think of it made me think of a thing from the Pit Stop on Drag Race, but I'll share that in the Discord with y'all. I'll share that in the Discord if y'all ask me. But I think that's interesting that Shimada is kind of the embodiment of Hayashida's words to Rei. He's like, if you help others and you teach others, they're going to give it back to you. And so we see this in action with Shimada in this episode, and it's so freaking good. But I love it. He's a mentor, and he's so sweet. Shimada is perfect. Y'all, I don't know how tall he is. I like a tall, lanky man. And I usually like blonde hair and blue eyes, but I will make an exception for green eyes and dark brown hair. I'll make an exception. His personality is so good. I don't see no ring. I think it's fair game. So I'm just, where are you in real life, Shimada? Where are you? I have the biggest crush on him, and it's hopeless. I'm done. He's animated so well. He's just so freaking good, and he has such a great personality. He could be as vanilla as, it doesn't matter how vanilla he is. He's amazing. And he has this little kid, Nikaido, with him that's adorable. Like, just stop it. Stop it. He looked like a damn Calvin Klein model where he was doing that pose, like, about the wind thing. Yeah. And then what I like about this is Rei thinking to himself, he said, like, this one word at a time. He's like, have I ever gone for a win like this? As if I'm throwing myself off a cliff. I love that he said that. I love that he's like, Shimada is in a place far away from here. So we talked about this in previous episodes, but there's this concept that right now Rei is on this one island, right? And there's the ocean here, and then there's Shimada over here. And then there's more ocean, and then there's Soya over here. And there's probably in between, there's probably Koda and some other islands as well. But it's just like earlier on in the season where Rei was like, yeah, each island gets farther and farther away and it gets harder and harder to swim out to, and it's more and more treacherous. And Rei had gotten to the point where he was on that one island and he's like, I'm content here. But now he's starting to see what it looks like from afar, and he's starting to question if he himself can make it there too. He's like, I like the way he phrased it as a world that I could never reach unscathed. He didn't say he could never reach it. He didn't say it was impossible. That's not it at all. It's just like, if you're going to get there, you're not going to get there without being hurt and without failing. And for Rei to say that, for Rei to acknowledge that it is possible to get there, you just may have to stumble and fall along the way, but you have to get back up. That seems huge. That's a huge thing for Rei to kind of say. He's saying, well, I was saying I have no reason to win, and why is it so painful to lose? He notes that in the same breath, a world I had averted my eyes from. He's like, I was too worried about why I was doing this and why I was even on this island, whereas I knew in the distance there was even bigger islands and more to see. And I'm like, yes! So, I love it so much. And it almost seems like Shimada looks up at Rei and realizes exactly what's about to happen. He's like, Rei is about to ask me about the workshop, but I don't want Nikaido here because I don't want to, I don't want to impede on Rei's pride. So I'm going to send my little bro away for a hot second, and then he's going to ask me about it, or I'm going to ask him. And he does, and it's so good. It was such a good moment. I was like, yes, please. And I like little Nikaido. He's just trying to like be as helpful as he can and get the stuff. I love he has little tendril hair flops. Shimada's design also with his lanky arms, I just, like cut from stone. And then both with the green eyes. The aesthetic, y'all. The aesthetic. Living. I live. This episode is just absolutely amazing. So then we have middle of the slope, which is where Shimada lives, in the middle of the slope overlooking the ocean, which I think is such a metaphorical and symbolic, thing for the mangaka to have, because it's like, I feel like Shimada is like the halfway point, at least of this season. We're nearly at the halfway point of the series that's been animated so far, right? The end of season 1, we're nearing it and nearing the halfway point of the series as a whole. And so I feel as if Shimada is a really good representation of kind of that, like, we're elevated above the normal competitors that Rei is used to facing. We're not to Soya's level. Even though he beat Goto, I feel like Goto is still an obstacle to overcome. But Shimada is kind of like middle of the slope. He's very balanced, very even keel. He's not too difficult. He's not too easy. He's a good, like, checkpoint for Rei, is how he feels. And I feel like the where he lives is kind of embodying that as well. I like this little kind of like, clearly we started a new chapter in the manga. I like seeing the sisters and what they've been up to. They're working on like stuff for the cafe. And I really like Hina and how she's kind of highlighted in this little part here, where she's made all the little stencil drawings to put on top of the boxes to mail out, and kind of had her little ingenuity there. And she keeps talking about little ways that she can improve for the next time. Like, she's like, oh, I'll get better for this. And so they're basically using it for a girls' festival. And basically Momo and Hina both want this special clam soup and sushi to go with it, the inari sushi. And then she describes what it is, right? Because I was like, what is it? What is inari sushi? And she basically explains that it's sweet, deep-fried bean curd. We fried it, so it's probably good. With sliced, crunchy lotus root and chopped egg and sesame seed. I don't like deviled egg, and I don't like hard-boiled eggs, so I don't know if I would like that. I like my eggs scrambled or fried or over hard. I'm a Southern American woman. I want scrambled eggs, damn it. But I don't like boiled eggs, and I don't like over easy. I like them cooked, please. But I don't know. I'm gonna have to try lotus root at some point. I don't know if I would like it. I think I would like the fried bean curd fine. And I like sesame seeds a lot. But they're asking how Ray is doing. And of course the grandpa is like, he is a man. He's got his pride to worry about. You ladies should let him be. And Hina's like, you men and your pride. What if he goes hungry? Like, she's like, if he never comes to visit anymore, then fine. She had kind of like a little flirty moment there where she's like, I'll just go feed him the sushi and show up at his apartment and do it myself. I kind of see why people can ship him and Hina together a little bit, because that moment was really cute. And I was like, okay, I see the ship. That's really sweet. That's nice. But meanwhile, Ray is going to meet Shimada at his beautiful little house that looks like two people could fit in it. I'm just saying, I would live there. It also reminded me of, I don't know if this show takes place near where Free Iwatobi Swim Club takes place at, but that little slope with the little steps down, I'm sure they're everywhere in Japan. I'm sure it's not just this location alone. I'm sure they're everywhere. But it reminds me of the character Makoto in Free. He lives on like a similar slope. So I thought that was just coincidental. I liked that. I love this show and how it does architecture and the geography of it and showing it. An old part of town, a middle of a slope with a great view. I love the symbolism of that. He's in like an older part of town. It's steeped in tradition and culture. I love that he's in the middle of the slope. I love that he's slightly elevated with a great view of what's in front of him. I love the idea of it connecting to Shimada, who has a view of what he wants to accomplish and what his goals are. Classic. Love it. Absolutely. I also love the random, like, it looks like tea, like a little, it looks like, it's not butter. It looks like maybe it's a tea packet and there's like water and like the sink that randomly drips. I love that. So in his workshop, there's Nikaido and then there's Morio, who is freaking hilarious. I love Morio is just glaring. I love his like cross sweater. He basically just has resting bitch face. He just has resting bitch face. He glares and is constantly like just... You could tell he's like a broad, sturdier guy because he's just hunched over. His posture's terrible, but like he's probably a bigger guy. He seems, what does he say there? He's like, well, obviously, you know, Nikaido. He says, Morio Shigeta, we're contemporaries and we've been friends since joining the association. So they joined about the same time. Poor Shimada, he looks a lot older than Morio, but oh my God. And the aura that emits off him, he's kind of a bastard, but we like him. He's our bastard. I can't believe Suda voices him. It's like best day ever. Love it. I also love this idea of Ray being the middle ground. You have Nikaido, who's this like, he's this fiery, perpetual optimist. And then you have Morio, who seems like he's this very like just full of energy, gloomy man. And then Ray's like in the middle. I also love that it's like red, purple, and blue. Like, poor Shimada. He's like all these major diva personalities. What do we do? What do we do? So they play all these little games. And they talk about how they're timed to where it allows them to play multiple games in a day. And Ray acknowledges that the idea of a workshop isn't just something that's unique for Shimada and Nikaido and Morio and him. It's something that a lot of shogi players do. They have these workshops where they work together like once a month and they practice strategies and stuff like that. So I think that's really cool. I'm like, that's great. And of course, Ray in the past wouldn't want to go to any of them to, you know, impose. But here, he's actually been invited and it's really, really cool. I like that Morio kind of has the exact opposite of a poker face. He is very expressive with his eyes and his emotions, but he's always expressive with his eyes and emotion to a heightened degree. So it almost works like a poker face where he's always on. So you don't know if he's being genuine or not, or if it's like a big deal or not. It's funny. It's funny. And I like how I wanted to bring Whiteboard Kun out to actually write out their strategies and see how they're different. You can look for things in a workshop. And I was distracted by the fact that once we started figuring out it was Suda, I was distracted. So we have the idea of Nikaido. Nikaido started out with a static rook. I'm going to put Morio over here. So he's like, you started out with a static rook. And of course, Nikaido's mad that he lost, right? Morio's a pretty big guy. He's a lot bigger than Ray, actually. And Shigeta followed with, what do you say Shigeta followed with? A cheerful central rook, which is funny that he did something cheerful. A cheerful central rook. I think it's hilarious he used a cheerful mood, and Nikaido's so pissed off. He's like, well, yes, yeah. Out of the various ranging rooks, a cheerful central rook is the manliest strategy. Ah, of course, of course. And then he does like the head turn, the shaft head turn. And he's like, I mean, I guess. I like that Morio like sneaks up like a snake. Like, what the fudge? What does that mean? And he's like, well, how can I put it? The ranging rook is a pessimistic counter move. So calling the ranging rook a pessimistic counter move, okay, with the aim of being a long drawn out battle, it isn't very manly at all. Oh, and so he's like, well, actually, bitch. I like that he's just like, oh, well, your move is for long drawn out battle. And it's not manly, which kind of goes back, I guess, to the battle between Shimada and Rei, right? That long drawn out battles may not seem like they're manly. I love that Morio has his head cocked and he's like, well, and another thing, bitch, let me tell you something. And he's like, what about your static rook castle bear opening? It signifies that you're in the game for the long haul. Basically, they're both complaining because neither of them took the offensive. They immediately took the defensive, which they looked down upon that strategy. Oh my God. And he's like, when you say it's the manliest strategy, I love the banners in the background flapping with their colors. He says, when you say it's the manly strategy, without meaning that I only played the cheerful central rook in order to break their castle defenses is illogical to the extreme. I love that they're just getting, he's like, well, I do think blocking the open bishop is pessimistic. And it's like, what the hell? Oh my God. And Shimada's just like, guys, what are we doing? It's disinterest in taking the initiative, only aiming to play counter moves. I love that they're just basically, so his is ranging rook, his is static. They're both like just talking about how lame their plays were. And Shimada's like, let's stop. He's like, we'll be at this forever. And he's like, ranging rook, static rook. And then Rei's like, well, how about we move on? Since everyone's gathered here. I like that Rei tries to do what Shimada is doing and be like the calm middle ground. And Shimada's like, oh my God, someone else understands. And then Rei, with his like flowery like demeanor there, and he's like, but actually either tactic is as good as the other. He's like, actually, you're both wrong. And they both look at him like he's like an all-rounder. And he's like, what? I love that they just get... They have such cheesy, horrible faces. It's so funny. Oh my God. And then Shimada's like, why? Why is this happening? And they're still analyzing an hour later. Oh my God. And arguing about the way to do it. And he's like, well, if you guys, oh my God. And they're arguing about where to put their gold and silver. Oh my gosh. He's like, I'm going with the old school style of 4G, silver to F3. And they just argue how he would use it. I love how like mad they are. Oh my God. I'm going to get so many screenshots. And Shimada's like, can we actually, what are we doing? I like that they all glare and turn at him. And he's like, oh. So then the episode's over. And I like that. I really love that we immediately cut to like the three ducklings, which is very representative of the three of them. I love that Rei and Nikaido are still arguing about the best strategy, and then they see the duck disappear. And then the duck disappearing distracts them in that moment. And so Nikaido's like, well, let's go back to your place and practice. And he's like, well, I don't know if we should do that. And then instead, they worry about the duck. I like that they went to the store to find a book on ducks when the duck could already have left by the time they got back. And it's like, really? But it's so cute because there's these teenage high school boys like looking at each other like, we gotta go figure it out. And it's just like, in a moment, Rei, who has been so all consumed by being an adult and growing up so fast, in this episode, he actually has a moment to step back. And whether it's with the Afterburners Chemistry Club or whether it's with, Nikaido at the workshop, he actually gets to sit back and become a kid again and enjoy life like a kid. And I know this series is not going to let me bask in the reward of this episode. It's going to give me angst and shit. I know it's happening. I know it's coming. But in this moment, it's so wonderful to see Rei and Nikaido hang out and be kids. I freaking love it. Because you have Rei, who is getting a distraction from his existentialism of what he's doing with Koda's family and Kyoko and Rent and everything else in his life. He gets this moment to get a reprieve from it. And then you have Nikaido, who has his illness, and he's getting a reprieve from that. It's just, it's so damn good, y'all. It's so good. And I even love that Rei's like, come on, Baka, like calling Nikaido a Baka. Like, and then them running back. I love that the episode ends with them running back to see the duck and get their identity. And it's just them having this moment together. It's so cute. I love it. I love it so much. I would watch an entire series of just shenanigans like this over and over again. Yes, please. Yes, please. I'm so excited. I'm so excited the suit is here. I'm so excited it's happening. I'm so excited that we're getting the workshop with Shimada already. We're gearing up. I feel like the rest of the season is going to be building up to the battle with Soya and to do all that. I want to see real quick about the end card. End card for episode 16. The episode 16 end card. If we've got that, I really like this end card. I'm going to show it a picture all here. It's basically the cat here from the shogi match that Nikaido drew, which is super cute. And the illustration is by Noriko Kudo, is the end card for that, which is fun. Episode 15, if we get that end card was done by Mari Yamazaki. So there we go. But yeah, I really, really liked this. This episode was a lot of fun. I super enjoyed it. I'm really excited to see what this workshop brings out of Rei and Shimada and Nikaido and all of them. That's going to be super, super cool to see happen. But I'm also excited to see all of y'all's comments down below and what you thought of this episode as well. So in the meantime, I hope y'all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe. Take care. And yeah, I'll be back really soon with more March Comes In Like a Lion.